All right, folks, loaded episode of Carving Up Live on tap for you guys tonight. Going to start with the New York Knicks advancing their first NBA Finals in 27 years. Why this Knicks team might very well go down as one of the most iconic in NBA history should they go on to win the title. Get to that. Also switch to the Western Conference Finals where my San Antonio Spurs picked to win the championship. It's on the brink. They're down 3-2. And Victor Wembanyama and his performance in Game 5, big reason for that. I'll get to that, I think, why he will bounce back in Game 6. Get to also a big story regarding the NFL and politics. What's new? Jaxson Dart introducing President Trump at a rally recently. It's ignited a lot of firestorm. Why has exposed a number of hypocritical members of the media. Get to that. Also discuss James Harden just adding to his resume as the most notorious playoff choke artist in the history of the NBA. Gets that at the end of today's show. Some very encouraging video if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan of Patrick Mahomes and why I think Kansas City will be a very real player in the AFC in 2026. We've got a loaded episode of Carving Up Live on tap. So let's drop the beat, baby. Here we go. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as on Facebook, Twitch, X, and on Instagram. I am Bryson Carver. Great to be with you on this Wednesday. Tons going on in the NBA playoffs. We've got an Eastern Conference champion, it's the New York Knicks. I feel very happy about that today, not because I'm a Knicks fan, but because I picked them going into the season to win the Eastern Conference. So we'll get to that in just a moment. Touch on the Spurs, touch on Oklahoma City. I didn't get to that in the intro, but we're in such a strange spot with the Thunder as it pertains to the foul baiting, as it pertains to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander having a 32-point game, but he wasn't very efficient in doing so and was highly reliant on going the free throw line and doing so, and the whole Thunder team's flopping. We'll get to that, get to a number of other things. I'm very excited for this week's edition of Carving Up the Context. Occasionally, we will wade into the political waters on the show, especially if they mix in the world of sports, because as I hear all the time, keep sports out of politics. I say keep politics out of sports, and we can have a deal right there. Get to that in about half hour regarding the Jaxson Dart, Donald Trump stuff. James Harden, Mahomes is practicing, full participant in Chiefs OTAs. Gets all those things throughout today's show. But first, I want to say right off the top of the show, congratulations to the New York Knicks and congratulations to New York Knicks fans. They swept the Eastern Conference Finals, and New York is headed to their first NBA Finals since 1999 when they actually lost to the San Antonio Spurs. Maybe they meet San Antonio. Who knows what happens with that. But I think let's talk about the team, and then let's talk about the historical ramifications of what they're doing. So as far as the team is concerned, one of the big concerns for New York coming into this season, even the last few years, even when they got Cat in a trade with Minnesota a couple of seasons ago, is, man, Jalen Brunson's fantastic, but can New York be a little too Brunson reliant? Can they be in a situation where relying on ISO scoring, maybe not moving the basketball a ton, all of those different things? And you have to give a ton of credit to the front office in New York for putting together a roster that works, that makes sense, that has long athletic wings, that has guys that can score off the bench, shoot the basketball. I mean, you can have an OG Anunoby go for 30. You can have a Karl-Anthony Towns in the way he's playing in Mike Brown's offense, more on Mike Brown, give you, 20 points, be efficient for the field, and give you like 7-8 assists because they're playing him beyond the three-point line and not down low, like finding a role that works for him. You talk about guys, Mikal Bridges, who's the ultimate competitor and winner and two-way guy, can hit shots from the floor, is the Knicks' best on-ball perimeter defender, and then obviously Jalen Brunson is a bucket. It was the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and Jalen Brunson talked after the game about what this means getting to the Eastern Conference Final, or rather getting to the NBA Finals for the first time since 1999. By the way, when his dad was on the team.
Resilience. I think that we've been able to stay focused, stay composed. It starts at the top of the organization. It starts with Mr. Dolan, front office, coaches, all the way down to us. I mean, like I said, from top to bottom, it means something.
It absolutely does. And I think if you look at the box score, just look at the box score. And again, they won by 37 points. And we'll get to the kind of the margin of victory stuff in a second. But look at the starting lineup. OG Anunoby had 17. Cat had 19. Josh Hart, who's kind of the glue guy, kind of the hustle guy, he only gives you 6. But scoring's not his job on that team. Mikal Bridges gave you 15. Jalen Brunson gave you 15. Off the bench, you got guys, Landry Shamet, who's been great for the Knicks in the playoffs, who's had a good Eastern Conference Finals, gives you 16. Like, it's just this depth. It's this variance that New York can offer you. And it kind of transitions me into Mike Brown, who I know Knicks fans were kind of down in the dumps when, you guys hired him last offseason or the summer. Like, is he that much an upgrade over a guy like Tom Thibodeau, who kind of helped build a culture here and got us from helped coach us out of just complete irrelevance into, holy crap, we're in the Eastern Conference Finals a year ago before losing to the Pacers, is that Mike Brown, let's look at this man's resume, and I've said this multiple times on the show. Mike Brown got to the NBA Finals as head coach in 2007. Listen, I agree, that was a LeBron effort, but Mike Brown did coach that team for what it's worth. Mike Brown has been an assistant coach with Greg Popovich, so he's seen greatness up close. He's been an assistant with Steve Kerr. In fact, in the Warriors 2017 playoff run, a playoff run that consists of, to me, the greatest basketball team ever assembled. You got prime Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala still giving you good minutes. You got Livingston. Like, that team was loaded. Greatest team of all time as far as I'm concerned. Mike Brown coached them from game 3 of the first round until game 1 of the NBA Finals and didn't lose. Ironically, the Warriors only lost that postseason game under Steve Kerr. So I guess maybe Mike Brown is a better coach than Steve Kerr. Obviously, I'm messing with Steve. I love Steve Kerr. But it was successful there. And again, to me, maybe the most impressive. He goes from being an assistant in Golden State to the Sacramento Kings, not exactly known for being a well-run franchise that, wins. Year 1, they're the 3 seed in the Western Conference, and it takes a Steph Curry 50 ball to knock them out of the playoffs. And then after a couple more seasons, the Kings are bad because the Kings are usually bad and they're poorly run, and they decide to fire Mike Brown, and look where the Kings are at now. Now he goes to the New York Knicks, and he's in the NBA Finals, and importing some of those lessons learned as it pertains to how the Knicks run their offense from Pop, from Steve Kerr, and he's kind of made it his own thing. And he's the thing that I love about Mike Brown, and I've said this a million times on the show, it's so freaking important, is NBA coaching. Guys know how to play the game. Basketball is not nearly as much, in baseball, same way, as much about schematics as like football is. Like football, a coach can make or break you. Not necessarily the case. It can make or break you in baseball and basketball. It isn't always. It's more often not the death knell, so to speak. For a guy like Mike Brown to step in, his job, run a competent offense and get those guys to play defense, and he is a defensive coach, and it's showed. But managing personalities and always maintaining the composure. I remember I talked about this after game 1 when they were down 22 to the Cavs. They make the crazy comeback to win. Mike Brown, every time they'd show him on the sideline on ESPN, cool, calm, and collected. Not panicking, not screaming at a referee. Like, I think you saw that at times. Mitch Johnson with the Spurs kind of let his emotions get the best of him at times, even if he might have had legit reason to in the second half. Joe Mazzulla has, like, Mike Brown, maintain composure, long game. Let's see how it plays out. I trust my veterans on the floor to get the job done, and he deserves a ton of credit as well. And I was thinking about this the last couple of days because they wrap the series up on Monday, and they don't play in the NBA Finals until a week from tonight. I guess it's June 3rd, June 4th, something like that. Is that there's been discussion about whether this could be like, oh my gosh, is this like quietly one of the greatest teams of all time? I'm not quite willing to go there yet for the simple fact of this. Number one, and I love Jalen Brunson. I've always been a Jalen Brunson fan, but there's not a A-list top 10 all-time guy or even like top 15 all-time guy if you want to talk about like the 83 Sixers with Moses and Dr. J. But like some of the greatest teams ever. 17 Warriors, had Steph and KD, all-time legends. Obviously the 96 Bulls, Michael Jordan, 01 Lakers, Shaq and Kobe, 86 Celtics, Bird McHale, like all-time, Mount Rushmore in their franchise type of guys. Mount Rushmore, maybe in the NBA type of guys, or at least in the modern era. I don't know if the Knicks necessarily have that. And they were, after all, they weren't even the best team in their own conference in the regular season, even as much as I believe them. They were the 3 seed. But they're going through a run right now, and we updated this graphic from last show where they're playing some of the best basketball, literally, that's ever been played in NBA history. Show the graphic. New York Knicks. They're tied for the longest winning streak in the history of the playoffs. By the way, they're only behind the 99 Spurs with Tim Duncan entering his prime and still a good David Robinson. And then the 2017 Warriors won 15 in a row. Knicks have won 11 straight playoff games, tied for third all time. They have the best points per game differential in an 11-game winning streak ever. They are winning games, folks, on average, by 23.8 points per game. They are obliterating people. The only games that were somewhat close was game 2 against Philly. Philly kind of just hung around like a hair in a biscuit, as we say down south, but the Knicks controlled that game throughout the second half. And then obviously the crazy comeback in game 1 over Cleveland. And again, you see right there, 11 double-digit wins in the postseason in totality. 11 of the 12 wins in the playoffs have come by double digits. No team's ever done that in NBA history to get to the finals. And so like the numbers would say, yeah, it kind of is an all-time great team. Let's see how the finals play out before I'm willing to go there. Here's what I will say. You see New York City. You saw all those fans. We see how Knicks fans celebrate after an opening night win over like the Celtics or something. There's the memes, the bing bong, or the guys, people going crazy in the streets. Like, they love their Knicks in New York City. Like, that is, New York loves their Yankees. They love their Giants or Jets, or obviously the Mets as well. If we're talking about Queens, that is a Knicks town. They love their New York basketball. They love their New York Liberty. Like, it's a basketball town. And they haven't won a title since 73, as we all know. It's a 53-year drought. If they break that this year, and they did so, by the way, by crushing everybody in the East. You could say the East is bad. It's not this bad for the Knicks to be going through them like a hot knife through butter. If they meet San Antonio and Wemby, it's like all this all-time generational talent, and they beat them. Or if they match up with Oklahoma City, defending champion, back-to-back league MVP and Shea, who will be favored over the Knicks, and they beat them, I think this team goes down as one of the most iconic champions in the history of the NBA. We talk about them like we'll talk about, much as I hate to say it, the 2016 Cavs. Now, that had more to do with a city's drought as opposed to a team's drought, but LeBron James, the 3-1 comeback, like there was something iconic. We remember moments with that team. For me, it's bad memories as a Warriors fan, but we remember those moments. I was a little too young to watch this, but the 2004 Detroit Pistons going through the Eastern Conference the way they did, running into the Shaq Kobe Lakers, and they broke up. They ended the Shaq Kobe dynasty. Beat them in 5 games. Kobe struggled in that finals. That the defense of Ben and Rasheed Wallace, Chauncey Billups, Mr. Big Shot, like it's those type of champions that we remember. Like, oh, maybe not the greatest team ever, but gosh, that was a fun run. 2019 Raptors, even again, the team that beat my Warriors. 2019 Raptors. There's the buzzer beater against Philly. They were down 2-0 to come back and beat the Milwaukee Bucks and the MVP and Giannis. They beat the back-to-back champion Warriors. Yes, injuries factored into that, but they still won the games fair and square. For Warriors fans, that 2022 title, it's like, holy crap. You beat Jokic, a 57-win Grizzlies team, Luka and Brunson, and Tatum and Brown to win the championship. Like, that's all-time stuff. Certainly not an all-time great team, but you remember that. You remember those moments. You remember how that squad made you feel as a fan. And as deprived as this fan base has been of a championship for 5 decades, for a half century, if this team gets the job done, and let's not do revisionist history here. Folks thought the Knicks could win the East, certainly coming into the season and coming in the playoffs, but it was a lot of, Boston. Man, Tatum's back. Here we go. The Celtics have been kind of the shock of the NBA this season. Missoula's coach of the year, and Detroit's won 60 games. Look out for Cleveland, because if there's one thing we know, you can trust James Harden in the playoffs. More on him later. And I feel like the Knicks just kind of went by the wayside. People picked Atlanta to beat them in the first round. And that series ends with a 51-point win in Game 6 in Atlanta. So, like, I don't want to have revisionist history about what folks thought about this team. If they I don't want to say defy the odds, they weren't like this underdog, but kind of overlooked, at least by New York standards, overlooked. And if they go on to roll to the championship, break this long drought, man, that's all-time stuff. So congratulations to the New York Knicks. Very, very deserving champions of the Eastern Conference. I felt they were the best team in the East all season long. I picked them to go to the finals before the year started, and they were able to get the job done. So congrats to New York. Let's shift to the Western Conference, though, because Game 5 was last night, and it's safe to say, we'll start on the San Antonio side, then we'll go to Oklahoma City. It's safe to say that Victor Wembanyama didn't have his best day at the office. We can show you his numbers just straight up if we have the graphic. Here it is. Victor Wembanyama, 20 points, but he was 4-15 shooting, 6 rebounds, which is not good for a guy who's his size, obviously. 3 blocks, that's about what he gets per game. But again, 4-15 for the field. He only hit 1 shot every quarter. That was it. 0 of 5 from three-point range. He hit his free throws, but that was it. And I know you guys are maybe going to expect me to come out on the show today as a guy who picked the Spurs to win the championship back in February, who obviously picked them to win the series, and who said after Game 1, after Wemby's masterpiece, yeah, that might be the best basketball player I've ever seen. Not greatest, best. You might be expecting me to be like, oh gosh, not looking so good. And you'll be sorely disappointed, because I still wholeheartedly believe in the Spurs team. I'll tell you exactly why. First of all, I picked Oklahoma City to win Game 5 before Game 5. I'm like, they're at home. They had a bad second half. Chet was bad. There was a lot of noise about whether he can play better. He stepped up and performed well. Thunder at home. Role players will step up. Like, I expected Oklahoma City to win last night, and they did. I was a little shocked that the Spurs, for as poorly as they played at times in the second half, were able to cut it to 5 at some points, but then Shea would hit a big shot, or Jared McCain would hit a big shot, or Caruso. So that didn't shock me. Here's what I think. Because I discussed the clips on social media about how 2-2 series, Shai hasn't played that well. This is kind of his moment to step up, to show that he is back-to-back MVP, show that he's an all-time great as he's trying to become. Game 5, we'll get to his performance, kind of a mixed bag. This might be Wemby's moment. You can say, well, what about game 1? He probably won't have a better game than he had in game 1. 41-24 is pretty sick. But down 3-2, and there was, Wemby actually got in trouble for this, rightfully so, because broke protocol. Wemby, came out of the game, just maybe might have said there was some physicality going on at the end with some of the bench warmers, Mason Plumlee, like what's that about with Jared McCain? Did Wemby have something to do with that? We know how competitive he is. And then he skipped media availability. Like, we don't have any Wemby clips because he didn't speak to the media, and he got fined for that. Or I think he got a warning for that. With the noise about Chet, we know how Wemby and Chet feel about each other, or more so how Wemby feels about Chet. I think Chet is more just annoyed that Wemby is obsessed with him. It feels like Wemby does not like this guy, and it shows. The noise about Chet steps up, plays well. Hartenstein, who barely got any playing time in game 1, has been phenomenal against Wemby, with the exception of game 4 in San Antonio. It's now a situation where, dang, now pressure's on you, young fella. I know it's year 3, but like, you better force game 7. You cannot go home. In game 6, on your home floor, Oklahoma City has kind of had stretches where they haven't played terribly well. They've been injured. You got to step up and win game 6. With the noise, with even the criticism of skipping out on press availability, with the fact that his rival Chet balled out in game 5, make no mistake about it. Wemby he took 15 shots, and Mitch Johnson even talked about it at the game. He called out his star players, like, he's got to take more shots. I know he attempted 12 free throws, so that would tell you he's aggressive. He's got to take more shots. There were also aspects, and again, this shows what a good job Hartenstein has done, but also the fact that Wemby, he is in year 3, he is 22. He's got to get more of, to put it in basketball terms, more of a bag. Yeah, there used to be a discussion for years. LeBron doesn't have a bag. It's like, well, he's the all-time leading scorer. He has some kind of bag. If you're Wemby, I felt like he kept kind of going back to the same move, and Hartenstein was ready for it. I expect him to make those adjustments. I expect him to shoot better from the three-point line, and I expect him to, right off the bat, just because we saw Chet was aggressive right off the bat last night. I think the same thing's going to be true of Wemby in game 6. So I'm not worried about the Spurs. I do think they're going to win game 6, and I picked them in 7. I'm sticking to that. So wasn't great. There is the concern, okay, how healthy is Fox and Dylan Harper, and is the moment maybe too big for some of the other guys like Stephon Castle? There was discussions about, is Wemby gassed, or is the moment too big for him? I do not believe that. I just don't. Again, the Spurs had to win game 4. Had to. After a brutal second half of game 3, they did. Wemby was awesome. Wemby set the tone. He's the type of dude kind of understands, there's an element of letting the game come to you, but there's times in sports, man, where the superstars got to step up and say, heck with all of this, I'm the man, and I'm going to assert my dominance from the opening tip. And I think Wemby's going to do that. And so, didn't play well, make no mistake about it. He's going to bounce back in game 6. No way on planet Earth he gets eliminated on his home floor on Thursday night. And I think we get a game 7, which I think is what a lot of us felt like, whether you pick the Spurs or OKC, that's where a lot of us felt like this was going to go. San Antonio's going to win 2 basketball games to get to the finals. So I trust Wemby. I think he's going to play a phenomenal game 6, and that's where I'm at. So as far as that, let's transition to Oklahoma City. Man, talking about this team's weird. It's just weird. So, okay. It's like you have to give this disclaimer every time. Because it's true. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is phenomenal. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander deserved back-to-back league MVPs. If I had an MVP vote, I'd have given it to him last year. I said that on the show last year. I'd have given it to him this year. I think he's deserving for a number of reasons for those separate awards. However, and this is how this could be a controversial statement, is I have no idea. We have eyeballs. We are able to watch the games. And by the way, thanks to the advent of social media, we're able to watch some of these clips back and see, oh yeah, he literally, when he goes on the jump shot, he just falls. Like he's on it. He takes a jump shot. There's nobody in the area and he just falls to his knees. Or if there's minimal contact under the basket, I think it was Dylan Harper. It was Vassell Dylan Harper. I think it was Dylan Harper. Kind of a light shove, Shai falls to the ground. And it's not even just Shai. It's the other Jalen Williams was sold a terrible flop earlier or later in the game, I should say. Jared McCain, it's become kind of an epidemic with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And with Shea, it is fair to say that in the postseason, it's kind of reliant on the free throw line, on getting to the line, and the numbers last night would show you that. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he had 32 and 9, but he had 6 turnovers. That's not great. 7 of 19 for the field. He did hit 2 of his 3 3-pointers to his credit. 16 of 17 from the free throw line. And I think this was a big discussion. I saw someone say on social media, like, man, y'all would have hated Dwayne Wade in his prime, like around like the 2000s. There was that infamous, was it game 5? I think of the 06 finals. I forget which. I think it was game 5 of the 06 finals where Wade shot like 24, 25 free throws and the Mavs were pissed about it. Like, how is he getting so many attempts? Listen, Shai's not the only, let's put it this way. Shai's not the only guy who foul baits. In the past or in the present, like Jalen Brunson, I love Jalen. But there are moments you're watching like, oh, come on, Jalen. Like, I get it. You get to the free throw line. It's not as I've called it, unbasketball-like moves that Brunson makes as opposed to Shai. Brunson will kind of like jump into the guy, throw the basketball at the rim. Shai just falls. I mean, they literally did. Tom Haberstroh, who's one of the best journalists in the business, has done some great pieces over the years. He literally did a piece that showed that I think Shai flops more times or is on the ground more times than like Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, and Wemby combined or something crazy. And Wemby's a center. Donovan Mitchell is known for scoring in the paint, dunking on people. And obviously, what's my man's name? Brunson gets to score in the paint as well. And he's on the floor more than those guys put together. Like, that's a problem. And so, and by the way, even Shai, to his credit, and this is one of the reasons I like Shai actually, is that keeps it real, is honest, and has very much of an even keel personality. He was asked after the game about his performance, and he didn't mince words.
I might have had the worst start to a basketball game in my career, but the group held it down, kept us in the game. Somehow we still won the first quarter, but that's just a testament to the guys in the locker room. Oh, I've been saying it all year. We're a group of 1 through 15. We wouldn't be this deep in the season without the guys, everybody on the team, and it just showed again tonight.
Lastly, when are you going to think you had a good game?
When I have a good game.
Thank you, Shai.
Appreciate it.
And again, he has, I mean, the numbers would back it up. Even with Wemby's performance last night, he has vastly outplayed Shai in this series. So Shai, who's the scorer, is scoring 2 fewer points a game on way less efficiency. Wemby shooting 14% from the field, greater than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's shooting 9% better from 3-point range on more attempts, I might add. Obviously, he's averaging more rebounds. Shai's obviously averaging more assists, and Wemby's averaging more blocks. Like, this has been a series that, if you had to pick the MVP, because I've been doing MVP of the conference finals since I think 2022, if you had to ask me who's the MVP of the Western Conference Finals, I'd say thus far the Oklahoma City Thunder bench. Like that, they've been the difference in the series. They were fantastic. Basically won that game 3 in San Antonio. They were great last night. McCain and Caruso, and even with these guys out, J-Dub and AJ Mitchell, they just have so many bodies that they can just throw on the floor that can give you great minutes on both sides of the floor. And that, I mean, even Dagnall, who's done a great job in the series, he's out here throwing Kenrich Williams on the floor. He's hitting a 3. Like, the depth of this Thunder team, I don't think anyone can sing his praises high enough. Sam Presti is the best executive in all of basketball, and it's not even close. Like, the roster he's put together fits perfectly for the modern NBA. It's long-range defenders who can shoot. That's what he's done. But Thunder fans acting like, and I've said this over and over, Thunder fans act like, yeah, you know why you hate us? You hate us because we win and we're the defending champions, and we might very well win another championship. No? No, matter of fact, if anyone's watching, maybe some people are, but if you watch this show for any length of time, NFL, NBA, baseball, really the only problem I have is it with dynasties to a degree is college sports, because it's not like Rutgers gets the first overall pick in the college football draft. That's not a thing. Like, the best teams, the rich get richer in college football. Whereas in professional sports, you're the worst team to get the first pick. Is that when it comes to Oklahoma City, I don't hate them because they're good. I've said religiously, dynasties are great for sports. Adam Silver instituting, and it wasn't just Adam Silver, but he's the commissioner. He gets credit when things go well, blame when things don't. This new CBA, which basically prevents teams from becoming dynasties, actually punishes teams like Oklahoma City who, wait a second, we draft well, we are a smart front office, we develop our players well, and yet we can't keep the guys on our roster who we handpicked, who we homegrown, that are homegrown guys. That's not fair. That's not good competition. I'm 100% pro OKC on that. And I think the CBA sucks now and prevents dynasties, which history has shown NBA has been at its most popular when it's had a dominant dynasty, when it's had a villain. So obviously now I'm a Warriors fan. Of course I didn't hate the Warriors. I never hated the Heatles. I don't imagine I'd have hated the Jordan Bulls, the Magic Lakers, or the Bird Celtics. That's good for the NBA. Dominance at the top is good for the NBA, just like it's good for the NFL and it's good for Major League Baseball. The Dodgers have been the best thing that have happened to Major League Baseball in decades. We have a super team. We have a villain. That creates intrigue. I love it. I dislike watching the Oklahoma City Thunder because half the time they're not playing basketball, guys. It's not to say they're not a great defensive team. They are. Not to say Shea shouldn't be a back-to-back MVP. He is. It's to say you're watching the game and there's no other way to say it other than guys are just falling. Like that's what it is with minimal contact. Again, Haberstroh did the report. Shea falls to the floor more often more often than Wemby, Brunson, and Donovan Mitchell combined. That's a problem. I mean, I know Wemby, I know SGA is slight, but he's not that slight. He's not like a 12-year-old playing against grown men. Like he's a professional athlete. He's a strong kid. So that's where I'm at in the Oklahoma City Thunder. Got a comment here from, I hope I say your name correctly, George Varghese, 382. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Great takes and just subscribe. Thank you very much, George. I appreciate it. As a Knicks fan, who would be the easier matchup? So I've been thinking about this since the Knicks, honestly, since they won game 1 and made the comeback, and it's like, yeah, they're going to win the series. I would say the better matchup, the matchup you should root for, even if it's the matchup I think it's going to happen, and I would pick the other team playing you guys. I think you should want San Antonio because I remember distinctly, and I'm sure you do too, George. I'm sure Knicks fans remember back in, I think it was March. It was like a matinee game, Sunday afternoon. Spurs were on this long winning streak to come to Madison Square Garden and the Knicks beat them. And if you watch the game, it's like, they've got a lot of big bodies that they can throw, particularly Mitchell Robinson at Victor Wembanyama to kind of wear him down physically a bit. Like, I thought part of the reason I picked the Spurs to win the West, I was like, I don't think there's anyone in the West that can really do that. Obviously, Portland didn't have anybody who could rough up Wemby. I didn't think they'd play Minnesota, but Minnesota did with Naz Reid, with obviously Rudy Gobert and others, Julius Randle. In the Western Conference Finals, Hartenstein's been much better than I thought he'd be. Chet can't do it. The best defenders in Oklahoma City are wing guys, not bigs. Not necessarily the case for the Knicks. Knicks got good wing defenders, but Mitchell Robinson, for as much of an offensive liability as he is, could be really, really critical in that series. And so, listen, it's so strange. If the Spurs make the finals, I'll pick San Antonio because that was my pick months ago with Spurs-Knicks and the Spurs winning. And if the Thunder make it, I'll certainly be rooting for the Knicks. I think because of the number of defenders that they can throw at Jalen Brunson, I think that really favors Oklahoma City. So that's a long way of saying I think Knicks fans, here's what Knicks fans should root for. Game 7. That they should root for. Another game that both these teams have to play so that the Knicks get, what would it be, 9 days between the last game of the conference finals and the first game of the NBA finals. So that's where we're at. So good question. And I think, appreciate this subscription, by the way. Everyone, feel free. Hit that big red subscribe button down there to help the channel grow exponentially. But yeah, these conference finals have been nuts. We are going to get to James Harden in about 15 minutes because what a surprise. He laid another egg in a big playoff game, and his playoff resume continues to be that of the most notorious playoff joke artist in the history of the National Basketball Association. So we'll get to all those things. But first, when we come back, carving up the context, we do it about half hour into every Wednesday show. And this one's a doozy. All I'll say, stay tuned. We'll be back in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Appreciate everybody for stopping by on a Wednesday. Before we get to Carving Up the Context, want to take a moment to advertise Carving Up merchandise. You can scan the QR code top left corner of your screen. It'll take you to the website. We got hats, we got t-shirts, we got any and everything that you can possibly imagine as it relates to Carving Up merch. You can also check out some of our other awesome content creators on the grid. Barry Grant Jr. with the All Even Podcast, Alfred Parsard Jr., who's crushing it right now, by the way, with the Metropolitan Report Podcast. If you love baseball, love the Mets, check out Alfred. If you love basically anything with sports and culture, All Even Podcast with Barry Grant Jr., and then obviously my friends of the Cowboys Cam Fan Podcast. They would do an awesome job. They're Canadians who love the Dallas Cowboys. Listen, during the season, they are, I'm not just saying this because they're my friends. I've been on their show before. They do some of the best content creation in football podcasting that you will find. So subscribe to their channel, check out their social media stuff. They do a great job, as do many of the content creators on the Grid Network. Now, here we go. This has been a story for, almost a week now. I think it happened on Friday night. So a lot of discussion going back to Friday night on social media, and it's made its way onto mainstream media and podcasts, and everyone's talking about it. The fact that New York Giants quarterback Jaxson Dart introduced the President of the United States, Donald Trump, at a rally on Friday night. And by the way, his teammate Abdul Carter made it, tweeted and was like, was not approving of it, so to speak. We'll get to all those things on Carving Up the Context. So, as the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, primetime Deion Sanders says, "Give me my theme music." On this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, we're going to be talking about Jaxson Dart, the quarterback for the New York Giants, introducing Donald Trump at a rally on Friday night. So before we even get into any of it, let's go and show you the video. This is what happened a little less than a week ago.
And without further ado, I'm grateful, I'm honored, I'm pleasured to introduce the 45th and 47th President of the United States of America, President Donald J. Trump.
I want to thank Jaxson Dart. This is going to be a future Hall of Famer in my book. Thank you. Thank you, Jaxson. Great. Right. A lot of talent.
Listen, Trump better hope that Jaxson Dart doesn't, maybe in like 10 years, because people change their opinions all the time one way or another. He better hope that Jaxson Dart doesn't change his political views or he'll be ripping him to shreds. That's what Trump does. He glazes you if you support him. He rips you to shreds if you don't. That's the game. Very thin ego. So with Jaxson Dart, as is often the case when these intersectional moments between sports and politics occur, more times than not, I feel like I piss off both sides. So why stop? Here's what I'm going to say that are probably going to piss off my liberal friends, but gosh darn it, I don't care. If you watch this show for any length of time, agree or disagree, I have always defended the athlete if they want to speak about any, or really anybody. We're freaking Americans, for crying out loud. If they want to speak in favor of a candidate they're in support of. Now, you guys know, if you've watched the show for any length of time, can't stand the president. I think he's one of the 5 worst presidents in American history, and I say that as somebody who has studied presidential history my entire life. But Jaxson Dart's got every right to support Donald Trump, and I defend his right to do so. He's an American citizen. If I came out on this show and said he shouldn't, here's what I'll say, though, on the Dart piece of it, and then we'll go to the media and some of the reaction to it. So Abdul Carter, who is obviously Jaxson Dart's teammate with the New York Giants, pass rusher. Both Abdul Carter and Jaxson Dart were teammates, or well, not obviously they're teammates, but they were both first-round picks from the 2025 draft. And Abdul Carter put a tweet saying, like, man, I hope this is AI. I can't believe he did this, and clearly was upset that his quarterback went and endorsed the president. And big reason for this is that Abdul Carter is openly Muslim. He's very open with his faith, and when it comes to Donald Trump's history with folks of that faith, it's bad. It's really bad. So I would imagine if any of us of any religion, again, I'm a Christian, if a candidate stepped up, forget if he was the president, if a candidate stepped up and ripped your religion to shreds, and then your coworker or even friend, maybe, I don't know what Abdul Carter and Jaxson Dart's relationship is, goes up there and is like, yeah, that's my guy, or that's my girl. Like, dang, so do you have a problem with all of us of that faith? Like, crap. Like, so you don't like Christians? Or in the case of Abdul Carter, so you don't like Muslims, apparently. You endorsed a guy who has openly spoken against people of my faith for decades. That's the Jaxson Dart piece of this. And also, and I haven't really seen him say anything beyond that. There's discussion about what this will do to the locker room. We'll see. I don't know if the Giants are a good enough of a team to where that's going to be the difference between them winning and losing. I'm not as high on the Giants as other teams are this year, or other folks are this year. We'll see. But Jaxson Dart does have to understand he can endorse whoever he wants. But as the quarterback, there's going to be a different level of scrutiny to say, okay, you are the leader of the franchise. The organization traded up to get you in the first round out of Ole Miss as a high-touted prospect from the SEC to say, you can be our franchise guy. Post Daniel Jones, obviously well post Eli Manning, we think you can be the guy. And he did show flashes last year, had a good game against the Chargers, against Philly. He played well. I remember in a game against the Broncos when the Denver made that late comeback. Like there's something there that can maybe be cultivated. But he does have to understand, if you make bold claims like this, or if you not even make a bold claim, he just introduced him. If you're going to support somebody as controversial as this individual is, understand that there is going to be some blowback from people who disagree with you. And I say that to anybody who endorses any candidate of their choosing. That, to me, is not the main story of this. The main story of this, and I've noticed this over time, over the years. So obviously we know, I said it back in 2020 on this show, stick to sports. That whole idea is archaic, it's dead, and quite frankly, it's incorrect. I mean, we don't even have to go back to the days of early America. We can just go back to the 60s when athletes were extremely vocal about social issues and politics. Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jim Brown, decades before that, Jackie, and even after that, Jackie Robinson, John Carlos, Tommy Smith, like all of these individuals were extremely vocal about the injustice. Muhammad Ali, who can ever forget Muhammad Ali, about the injustices going on in America that affected people, that affected Black people in this country. So that this whole all sports and politics, they've never been, and then the woke left once again involved. Here's what I'll say. Because if we have the clip, do we have the clip? Okay, we got the clip. This whole stick to sports idea, I heard Will Cain say on his show the other day on Fox News. He's like, it's okay to speak about politics long as it's if you're speaking for the right team. And by that, he was inferring liberals or the left. Never forget when one of his colleagues at Fox News said the following.
And it's always unwise to seek political advice from someone who gets paid $100 million a year to bounce a ball. Oh, and LeBron and Kevin, you're great players, but no one voted for you. Millions elected Trump to be their coach. So keep the political commentary to yourself, or as someone once said, shut up and dribble.
So when LeBron James, Kevin Durant make comments that are clearly anti-Trump, they don't like the president of the United States, they've got strong opinions about him, and they voiced them. I think it was an interview with Kerry Champion back in 2018. That's what Laura Ingraham had to say. 2 years later, Drew Brees, and he later apologized, but outlined his vehement opposition to folks that kneeled during the national anthem and talked about that and what the flag means to him. And he voiced his political beliefs, and Laura Ingraham had this to say, a little bit of a different tune.
Well, he's allowed to have his view about what kneeling and the flag means to him. I mean, he's a person. He has some worth, I would imagine.
He's a person. He can voice whatever he thinks, which, by the way, I totally agree. It's just amazing how that switches as it pertains to somebody speaking against somebody that you like. Also, too, we can go through a number of examples. We can talk about a man that I believe to be the greatest walking contradiction in all of media, a man named Clay Travis, who made his career on the idea of stick to sports and keep sports out of politics. And I don't want to hear what athletes have to say. See, you play sports and politics do politics. Clay Travis, who was on a sports show and has been on sports shows over the years, then decides, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to replace Rush Limbaugh as the number one conservative radio host. I'm going to take over Rush Limbaugh's show with Buck Sexton, and that's going to be my thing. Okay, incredibly hypocritical, but knock yourself out, Clay. We can use an example of his. We can talk about, I remember discussing this on my show a year and a half ago when Nick Bosa wore a MAGA hat after a 49ers game. And he says, this is from Clay Travis, here's Nick Bosa closer up in his MAGA hat. The left-wing sports media is going to lose its mind over this. Love it. But when Steve Kerr is discussing issues that he cares about, such as gun violence, which, literally affected his family, cost his father's life, Clay Travis, Kerr, presently being hailed as a hero by left-wing sports media, is actually a coward, emblematic of many on social media. He has passionate opinions on whatever people are emotional about, even if it directly contradicts his prior emotional opinions. Now, which prior emotional opinions? I'm not sure, because he's been vocal about gun violence literally his whole life. Again, it tragically is the reason that he lost his father when he was in college. So if Steve Kerr or Popovich or Braun, Steph, Katie say something, it's a problem. But if Nick Bosa wears a MAGA hat, that's my guy. I freaking love it. Or if you want to look more recently, we can talk about somebody like Boomer Esiason, former quarterback in the NFL. He's been an analyst for years with CBS. And he talked about how Jaxson Dart and Abdul Carter, as Abdul Carter tweeted, hey, they had a conversation about this. We're good now. No problems between me and my quarterback. This is what Boomer Esiason had to say about that exchange. See if there's any inherent bias here.
But to put this out like a child on social media is ridiculous. And then when I heard, yeah, we spoke man to man. Yeah, there was only one man on that call, and that was Jaxson Dart.
There's only one man in that call, and that's the guy who did the exact same thing that Abdul Carter did, and that's speak in favor of a political cause. Jaxson Dart introduced the President of the United States, and Abdul Carter opposed him, and they both used their First Amendment rights, spoke in opposite directions, but Abdul Carter's the villain. Abdul Carter's not the real man, it's Jaxson Dart. Interesting, because a few months ago, during the Winter Olympics, this was at the height of ICE raids in major cities and people tragically losing their lives as a result of ICE, being killed by ICE. Multiple Olympic athletes voiced their displeasures with what was going on back home. And when they were talking about their political beliefs and being critical of the president, Boomer Esiason had a little bit of a different tone.
Like, I was sitting there watching, the freestyle skating by, our ice skating team, figure skating team that won the gold medal.
Are they happy to represent America?
Yeah, they seem to be happy to represent America. Not everybody is, but, everybody should just pipe down and just do their sport and play for our country and respect the flag and respect everything that's going on.
Yes, because if there's one American virtue that we can all agree on, it's the fact that citizens should never, ever speak against the government. That is as American as it gets, right? Funny, we wouldn't have a country if it weren't for that. Here's what I would like to say, and what I find really interesting, is that if an individual like Abdul Carter pushes back on Jaxson Dart, or if somebody like Steve Kerr, Steph Curry, LeBron James, among others, speak out about political issues that they care about. Even Joe Burrow has been outspoken about politics in the past. Leans more left. That's, either stick to sports and shut up. But if they agree with me, not only am I like, yeah, that's my guy, Jaxson Dart, Nick Bosa, maybe some of the Olympic athletes, some of the men's hockey players that were in support of the president. Not only are they my guy, the folks that are in professional sports that lean on my side of the aisle, not only do I think they should have the right to say whatever they want, I think they should be the people formulating policy, even if they have no prior political experience. I'm talking about Michelle Tafoya, and I'm talking about Derek Dooley, and I'm talking about Herschel Walker, Mark Teixeira. We can go up and down the list. Jay Feely. I've got a list here. Tommy Tuberville, who's a terrible college coach. So what does he do? He runs for the Senate and wins in the Senate in Alabama. We love it when folks not only speak on our side, but hold positions of power in the government to make policy for everybody. But you so much to speak out against the guy that I like or that I support, which, by the way, have you seen the numbers? And I'm not generally a guy who likes polls, matter of fact, I hate polls, but numbers aren't looking so favorable to the President of the United States. His approval ratings are in the gutter, and for good reason. They speak against him, then they should just pipe down. You're representing America, right? Like you think you have the rights over there that you've got here. You just pipe down. You play your sports and let me cheer for you. You score touchdowns for me, or you hit 3-point shots or dunk, and I'll cheer for you. But you so much as say one thing about the guy that I like, and I don't believe that you should have your First Amendment rights. That's what it is, straight up. And I just find this whole situation to be interesting. And I've also noticed, and it bothers me from people like Clay Travis, like folks who do the whole holier than thou, self-righteous nonsense about, hey, if this athlete or if this league in particular does something politically that I do not agree with, I'm boycotting. Because my political affiliations and beliefs trump my love of sports, which the ratings would say couldn't be further from the truth. Is that if you're a sports fan, generally you're a sports fan for the rest of your life. You just are. There are conservatives who watch and love the NBA with the full knowledge that league leans left. There are folks like myself who I don't love. I adore college football. It is a very right-leaning, pro-Trump, wing of sports. Like it just is. Like Trump's going to college football games, and college football coaches have been supportive of the president. Like that's what it is. Doesn't change the fact that I love college football. And it doesn't change the fact if you're a conservative or even if you're a Trump supporter that some people who support the president, they love watching the NBA, as evidenced by the fact that this is one of the highest rated NBA playoffs in decades. As evidenced by the fact that when there were calls, oh, outrage, I will never watch the NFL after Colin Kaepernick did what he did. Exercise the First Amendment right, by the way. Funny, we can check the ratings. And this predates Kaepernick's protest that in 2012, ratings were 16.6 million. They went up the following year. And in 2016, the ratings were 16.5 million. They did go down in 17, but then came right back up in 18. And in 2020, the ratings were 15.4 million and exploded the following year. And in 2024, the ratings were 17.5 million people watching a football game for the NFL per year. And that went up over 1 million on average. What can you see on that chart, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to the ratings of the National Football League? It's that quite simply, during election years, I've been on this for a half decade on this show. When it comes to election years, people, understandably so, say, hey, I love my sports. I'm more in tune to politics, what's going on, who's going to be the next president of the United States, debates, cable coverage. You see the ratings for cable news. You see for Fox, for CNN, for MS Now, for all these networks go through the freaking roof during election season and plummet once it's over because the spectacle's over. It's like when the NFL season's over after the Super Bowl, like I think ABC's doing the Super Bowl this year. ABC's ratings the following Sunday night are not going to be what they were on Super Bowl Sunday. Like, that's just common sense. The main event is over. And in sports, you get a lot of main events. That's what's great about the NFL is it's a 17-game regular season. Every game matters. That's why it's great about the NBA playoffs. Best of 7, you better show up and put yourself in the best position to win. Sense of urgency. Same with baseball and March Madness. And that's why we love sports, is competition, is camaraderie, is guys from different backgrounds coming together to accomplish a certain goal. You don't boycott that for a political ideology. Not if you actually love sports, I should say. Listen, I'm not going to mention any names. You could probably guess. I'm a Red Sox fan. I've rooted for Red Sox teams that have had less than savory personalities on those squads. Again, guess who you will. Some outright evil people, as far as I'm concerned. Didn't change the fact that I rooted for the team. I'm a Red Sox fan. I just am. Like, I love college sports. Most of college football, I should say. Most of college football supports President Trump. I still watch. You still watch the NBA, as evidenced by the ratings. And on social media, the social media views are through the roof, get bigger every year. Attendance up every year in the NBA. The NBA just signed a multi-billion-dollar television deal with NBC, with Amazon, with Peacock. The league's doing fine. NFL is doing fine. This whole self-righteous holier than thou, and I'm okay with athletes or people involved in sports not only speaking in favor of my cause, but literally running for positions of power in politics. But if you speak against it, your First Amendment rights should be stripped. How American does that sound? Is that what's the term? Making America great? That doesn't seem too great. That doesn't seem to be too consistent with what we hold ourselves to be as a nation, or what we at least try to. So in this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, listen, Jaxson Dart's got every right to support Donald Trump, to introduce Donald Trump at a rally. Abdul Carter has every right to push back on that. What issues that'll cause in the Giants locker room? That's not some callous, but that's kind of their problem. That if I were a Giants fan, I'd probably feel differently, but that's their problem. They're going to have to figure that out in the locker room. But I just find the inconsistency to be not only jarring, but I'll just say it, outright unpatriotic. I do. I could not disagree with Jaxson Dart or Nick Bosa or others, folks, guys on the men's hockey team for Team USA, not all, but some who support Donald Trump. Could not disagree with them more. I will defend them every single day of the week to support him if they so choose. Every day of the week, because we're in America. That's who we're supposed to be. Meanwhile, you, and you know who I'm talking to, want to silence Steve Kerr, LeBron, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Greg Popovich, Abdul Carter, among others. Athletes who went overseas during the Olympics and did the most American thing that any of us can do, is say, here's a problem in the country. I don't like it. We need to change it. And using their platform, which will never be bigger than during the Winter Olympics, to voice those concerns, because we know the weight that athletes have when they do discuss politics, as again evidenced by the 1960s, as just an example. So that's where I'm at. I find this whole idea of shut up and dribble, stick to sports to be absurd on its face, but I could maybe stomach it if you were if you at least tried to be consistent. If you at least made an attempt or an effort or anything to play by the rules that you yourself set. And by the way, too, sure, I'll stick to sports on my quote unquote sports show. And once the president and those in power, who maybe I disagree with, it's not even who I disagree with, anybody, when they stop discussing sports, when they stop discussing NIL and the change they want to make as it pertains to that, restricting what a college athlete can make, even though the Supreme Court made it completely legal back in 2021. So at least attempt to be consistent is the moral of the story. Okay, so there's that. Off my soapbox. Again, I just find this whole ordeal to be, if it weren't real, it'd be hilarious, but it's sad how little folks value others they disagree with First Amendment rights. It's truly remarkable to me. And by the way, there's no greater perpetrator of that than the president, trying to silence comedians, trying to silence people with his own party who do not back him 100% without a shadow of a doubt. That's my guy. I mean, you see folks like Lauren Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene or Thomas Massey, folks that have voted with Liz Cheney, who voted with Trump 90+% of the time, but the 10%, that outweighs the 90. Like it's clown behavior and it's anti-American behavior, to put it mildly. All right, let's shift back to basketball. Let's shift back to the NBA, because I will never, as long as I live, never miss an opportunity to take shots at Cleveland sports. I'll never do that. And when one team wins, another team's got to lose. And the Knicks were dominant in their run to winning the Eastern Conference Finals. And the Cavs, in their own right, were pretty bad. Got smoked. Up big in game one, blew the lead. That was it. That series is over right there. And while we can blame Kenny Atkinson, who, as evidenced by over the weekend and what we discussed on Monday's show, believes that you can win a series through analytics rather than scoring more points than another team, we can blame Donovan Mitchell for not playing his best series, and he did not. We can blame a lot of different people. But I am just flabbergasted. I'm flabbergasted that anybody in their right mind who knows jack squat about basketball could possibly think in their head, you know, a team that employs James Harden, they can go win the championship. Given the fact that James Harden is, and has always been, the most notorious playoff choke artist in the history of professional sports. And the numbers back it up. So we can show you what he did in Game 4. He was awful. He had 12 points, 4 rebounds. He had 2 assists as the point guard of this team. 5 turnovers. He was 2 for 8 from the field, over 6 from 3. He hit his free throws, but that was it. And if you also look at what James Harden did in these Eastern Conference Finals when the lights got bright, he was, he was awful there too. He averaged more turnovers than assists. He averaged 16 a game on 38% shooting for the field and 17% from three-point range. James Harden was bad. James Harden's always bad in the postseason. And James Harden, despite, you can say, well, the Cavs got to the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah, they got there because of Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen. And in the case of the first round against Toronto, they were just better than the Raptors. That series should have never gone 7. They beat Detroit because Donovan Mitchell was phenomenal in 2 of the last 4 games of that series. Jared Allen was great in Game 7. And also the Detroit Pistons don't know how to play offensive basketball. Like we saw them. That was an issue. You can say, well, they got there and Harden was there. Wasn't like Harden was helping them. Harden in elimination games this year. 13 points in elimination games. 13 points. Again, more turnovers than assists. 5 assists to 3.7, or rather 5 turnovers to 3.7 assists. In elimination games this postseason, these are real numbers. He shot 25% from the field and 5% from three-point range. He hit 1 3 in the 3 elimination games, all of 2 Game 7s and the Game 4 against the Knicks. He hit 1 3-pointer in the elimination games that he played this postseason for the Cavs. And we add to the resume, that of which is the worst, and it's not even remotely close, of any superstar. At one point, he was a superstar. He was a league MVP back in 2018. Multi-time scoring champion. His resume in the regular season is fantastic. For any superstar in NBA history, there is no postseason resume that even comes close to being as bad as this guy. Put up the graphic. I mean, it's going to take a minute. James Harden has 33 games with more turnovers than made shots. By the way, he has 49 games with as many turnovers as made shots. He has 24 games with 2 or fewer made shots. 39 games with 3 or fewer made shots. 59 games with 4 or fewer made shots. He has 56 playoff games in his career, ladies and gentlemen, with a field goal percentage under 35%. He has more elimination games scoring under 20, 14, than over 30, 8. He is 3-4 in his last 7 Game 7s. Again, those last 2 wins, he was atrocious in both. And he is now 12-16 in elimination games. And add to that, nobody, and I mean nobody, deflects blame. It's like the Aaron Rodgers of the NBA when it comes to deflecting blame or not taking accountability for poor performance. This is what James Harden had to say. He was asked about, hey, do you guys feel like you could have, certain aspects, maybe won the series or whatever? And Harden said this, after getting swept, by the way, swept off the floor.
Yeah, it was 4-0, but I don't think we had a chance as far as our best shot, from a standpoint of the circumstances. Obviously they dominated us 4-0, but I don't know if I can necessarily answer that question, just because genuinely I do feel like we are the better team, but series wise, it didn't show it, so it's a tough question to answer.
Tough question to answer. I mean, it's okay. You don't have to like rip your teammates or anything. That'd be bad too, but you can also say, I've watched a lot of LeBron press conferences over the years, and I think he even said it during the series against Oklahoma City this year, like, yeah, man, it's hard when you don't have a guy who averages 33 a game, and they're the kind of team that they are in Oklahoma City. Like, we're going to have to play darn near flawless to win this series. And LeBron has said, many of the great players in the NBA have said over the years, like, yeah, we're not a championship team. Steve Kerr has said it, not a player, but Steve Kerr said with the Warriors, like, yeah, we maybe need to, if the Warriors have been underachieving or whatever, like, yeah, we maybe need to rein in our expectations a little bit for what we can accomplish each year. Like this, I've been on championship teams. This ain't one. Like, Kerr will be blunt. Bron will be blunt. Harden doesn't have to go that far, say, hey, we're not a championship team. It's like, well, you were one of the final 4 teams left. You went pretty far in the playoffs. But he can't say, I know we got swept. I know we got crushed in 3 of the 4 games, and in the one game that was close, we blew a 22-point lead in the 4th quarter. But I think we're better. That it's not as worse as what Kenny Atkinson said. Atkinson said it's not far off. And then when you hear the reporting out of Cleveland from people like Brian Windhorst who are saying, yeah, they're probably going to bring him back. Okay. I rip Cleveland all the time for delusion, for bad front office moves or what have you. But there are certain things that are so obvious that don't even take a second thought. I've always said, what does the Declaration of Independence say? What are the first words? We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. It's like, it's so obvious. You just know it inherently. You know it inherently. When you absolutely need him the most, that is when he's going to play his worst basketball. That is when he's going to not fall asleep on defense, just straight up not play defense. We don't have the rights to show footage on this show because this podcast will get demonetized, and we don't want that. But if you go back and watch James Harden the 4 games of the series, particularly when he's on Jalen Brunson, I mean, Brunson's not even having to get in his bag in order to create separation. He's just going right past James Harden. There was a play at the end of game 3 where it wasn't just Harden, it was the whole Cavs team, but where Mike Breen says on the broadcast, and Mike Breen's not ripping anybody on the broadcast, where he's like, yeah, the Cavs just stopped playing on that possession when Brunson just drives coast to coast for a layup. Harden's been doing that for years in the postseason. Defense is, in many ways, kind of beneath him. He doesn't really believe in it. No one's asking James Harden to be an elite defender. They're asking him to at least try on defense, to play team defense. He doesn't do that. He's never done it. James Harden quit on, what is this now, 5 teams? Four teams, I guess. The Houston Rockets, the Brooklyn Nets, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Clippers. That's 4 teams. Each of those squads thought they were adding him to make them a championship contender. And in each of those situations, it was an ugly divorce. In Brooklyn, it was a disaster. He didn't like Kyrie, didn't think he was getting the requisite opportunities. They traded him to Philly. And then he was with Joel Embiid, and he didn't like playing with Embiid, I guess, or had issues with the front office. And so they traded him to the Clippers. And before that, by the way, before Brooklyn, he quit on Houston and literally gained weight. Whether it was fake or real, he gained weight in order to force a trade. And then obviously with the Clippers, he's like, I want out of here. And now he's with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland's trying to attract LeBron James to finish his career there. It makes sense. LeBron's obviously the greatest Cav ever. He's from Akron, king of Akron, all of it, won a championship in 2016. I get the sentimentality for LeBron. And if Harden's not there, I think it would be great if LeBron went back to Cleveland. He'd be out of his effing mind to go back with that guy still there. Takes no accountability, does not believe in playing defense, is not a good teammate, as evidenced by the fact he's quit on 4 teams prior to Cleveland. And above all, when it comes to on-court production, maybe I can put up with some of those things if you show up in the biggest games. No, in some cases, you flat out quit in the biggest games. Your body language sucks. Your effort sucks. Your aggressiveness is non-existent. You take 8 shots in an elimination game. That's who he's always been. And so the Cavs, or frankly any team for that matter, that is adding Harden with the belief, not saying like no team should sign him, but with the belief, he can get us over the top. Well, he's better than Darius Garland. Okay, he is better than Darius Garland. We agree on that. By the way, not long-term, he's not better than Darius Garland, but hey, whatever. Darius Garland wasn't good in the playoffs last year, struggled to stay healthy. I'd have taken Darius Garland over this nonsense. I'd have taken Darius Garland over 25% shooting and 5% from 3 in elimination games. Could have been that bad, right? And so this is straight delusion if the Cavs are wanting to bring him back. Like, hey, maybe a full season in Cleveland. Usually it's the full season going in where Harden ends up winning out. Brooklyn, his first full season there was supposed to be, he got traded to Philly. And then with Philly, I guess it was his second full season, or in theory, in Philadelphia, he wants out. And with the Clippers, his third full season, or in theory, second full season in Clippers, he wants out. So if they think, hey, I can change him. What? We're 17 years in. What evidence do you have that would be the case? What? Do tell. What evidence? Or is it maybe stemming from the fact that we probably shouldn't have traded Garland for Harden, and now we feel like we kind of have to bring him back. Otherwise, we don't have a point guard. To which I'd say, then just bring in LeBron. LeBron can run point. We know that. Problem solved. And he'll at least try on defense. He's not the defender he once was, but he'll, on big key possessions, LeBron's locked in. Harden didn't even attempt to play defense. So there you go. Last topic before we get out of here. Because I did see this. OTAs are going on right now in the NFL. And I saw some tape of, again, unfortunately, we don't have the rights to show it in the show for potentially being demonetized. But Patrick Mahomes, knee brace on, but was a full participant in Chiefs OTA, in the first Chiefs OTA practice. And it does lead you, because I had concern, like, okay, wait a minute. He tore his ACL in, mid-December? There's no way he's going to be back certainly by OTAs, and probably not training camp, and he's probably not ready for week 1. And now it's like, holy crap. He couldn't play an NFL game tomorrow. Maybe it was the Super Bowl, he'd try and gut it out, but if it's week 1 tomorrow, Monday Night Football against the Broncos, Mahomes isn't playing. That being said, if he's at least close to healthy, close to 100% by week 1, because we know different athletes heal differently. I don't love Kansas City's roster. I really don't love the fact that there's the situation going on with Rashee Rice, who just cannot stay out of trouble off the field. So they've got that issue to deal with. They had the fact that Xavier Worthy's a talented young kid, but the same concerns that we all had about him coming out of Texas, he's really slight. Like he's a very small body, and the NFL is not a league that is very kind to small bodies. It's just not. You have Travis Kelce, who's getting older. Travis Kelce's still a top 5 tight end, as evidenced by the season he had a year ago. He's top 5 in virtually every statistical category among tight ends, but he's obviously not the same player he once was. Is that if Kansas City, and I think this is what they're going to do, to be honest with you, if they play a less Mahomes reliant, or even a less, almost like go to a little bit what Buffalo's done, where Josh Allen's capable of making the Superman plays. By and large, we're kind of a running football team with James Cook. And Josh Allen's more of a... Josh Allen, in terms of his numbers, is the better runner than Mahomes. Mahomes has had more great clutch runs in the playoffs than Josh has had. But the fact that Kansas City went out and got Kenneth Walker, the fact that Kansas City has one of the best interior offensive lines in the NFL, leads you to believe, and the fact they upgraded their defense to try and get off the field as quickly as possible, leads you to believe, okay, that happens about once every 2 weeks, as the mic will just suddenly mute. Do Andy Reid and Mahomes and Eric Bieniemy, who's back as the offensive coordinator, we know the success that Mahomes had with Bieniemy. Do those three kind of come together and say, okay, A, because Mahomes is coming off an injury, B, because the way our roster is constructed right now, we're going to be kind of run heavy. We're going to be run first. And ask Patrick to make big plays, not in the sense of like being a complete game manager, but first month of the season, maybe. And again, as I talked about, like teams that won and lost the schedule release, I thought the Kansas City was kind of given a break by the NFL, is the fact that, so Kansas City starts Monday Night Football. If I could pull up Kansas City's schedule on my phone. They start Monday Night Football at home against the Denver Broncos. That's a tough matchup. Mahomes has had success against Denver in his career. That's a tough matchup. Beyond that, Colts at home, Dolphins on the road, or just Dolphins at all, at the Raiders. And then you go from there. Then the season gets harder. Chargers, Seahawks, Broncos. But in between the Raiders and Chargers game, which will be week 4 and 6, there's a bye. So in those games, in which I expect Kansas City to probably get off to like a 3-1 start, you ease Mahomes in, you rely on running the football, and by week 6, Patrick Mahomes is back being Patrick Mahomes again. And then again, the schedule's brutal from there. I mean, from there it's Chargers at Seattle, at Denver, then it's the Jets, then the Falcons, Cardinals, at Buffalo on Thanksgiving, at the Rams, at Cincinnati, Patriots at home, Niners at home, at the Chargers. Like, it is a brutal back half of the schedule for Kansas City. But if they can get off to a good start, Mahomes is healthy, gets healthier, they put more of the onus on him to make plays offensively, then I think Kansas City can be back in the Super Bowl race in 2026. I really do. Again, if you have Patrick Mahomes on your team and you make the playoffs, you bare minimum get to the AFC Championship game. And I've said since after the Super Bowl, this is before the Vrabel stuff, that I thought the Patriots would take a step back because they went from one of the easiest schedules literally in NFL history to arguably the hardest schedule in the NFL this year. You have that. Buffalo's going to be Buffalo. We know they're going to be in the mix. I don't think there's a contender in the AFC North, to be honest with you. Obviously not my Steelers. Cincinnati's defense is awful and Burrow can't stay healthy. And as for Baltimore, I don't trust Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. It's not hard and bad, but I don't trust Lamar Jackson in the postseason. And as far as the AFC South, Houston's got a CJ Stroud problem. Jacksonville's got a GM problem because he doesn't know what he's doing. Like, it's a conference where it feels like Buffalo and Kansas City feel like they'll probably be the last. Denver's going to be great, by the way. Denver's going to be great. Herbert's never won a playoff game. Feels like it's a Denver, Kansas City, Buffalo conference in 2026. That's where I'm leaning right now, but we'll see how it plays out. All right, that's all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Friday, right after Game 6, or not right after Game 6, but the day after Game 6 between the Spurs and Thunder. I think we're getting a Game 7. I think Wemby's going to take that performance and the criticism that followed it personally. I'm very excited to see what he does. I think we get a Game 7 and we'll react to those things as well as whatever else is going on in the world of sports and elsewhere. Hope everybody has a great rest of your week. Please continue to stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. I really have to root for Aaron Rodgers again, don't I? Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.